Welcome back, focused learners. Okay, let's dive right into this. Today, we're unpacking a massive, incredibly intense geopolitical storm centering around the International Criminal Court, or the ICC, and its chief prosecutor, Karim Khan. Right now, the ICC is operating inside an absolute pressure cooker. They are facing unprecedented, multi-directional heat from global superpowers over their highest-stakes arrest warrants to date. In this explainer, we're going to break down exactly how these warrants work, the fierce pushback they've generated from basically all sides of the political spectrum, and what this actually means for the future of international law.
To really grasp the stakes here, you have to hear what Karim Khan is saying himself. He says, these warrants were meant to threaten us and to chill, but we need to focus on the victims. This isn't about us, it's about the people we're here to serve. Khan is personally facing severe sanctions and threats from some of the most powerful countries on Earth just for doing his job. It's an incredibly dangerous position to be in. But as he emphasizes right here, the focus has to remain on the victims. As we go through this explainer, you'll see exactly why the world's most powerful intelligence agencies and politicians are hyper-focused on this one court, and why Khan insists the mission has to continue no matter the personal cost.
Section 1. Inside the arrest warrants. Let's look at the baseline standard of proof and see how this builds.
So before we get into the massive global fallout, how does the ICC actually issue an arrest warrant? It's really vital to understand that a warrant isn't just the chief prosecutor waking up one morning and making a political declaration. As Khan points out, you can't just take B-roll footage from the nightly news, tie it up with a bow, and ask for a warrant. The evidence has to be authentic, reliable, and subject to intense forensic scrutiny. They literally have to establish a realistic prospect of conviction. From there, the prosecutor submits secret applications, which are then rigorously reviewed. The final step isn't actually up to Khan at all. It requires the unanimous endorsement of 3 independent, highly experienced pretrial judges. It's a highly structured, methodical process, not some rushed political decision.
And it was exactly that rigorous process that resulted in these specific, frankly incredibly severe charges leveled against leaders on both sides of the conflict in Gaza, Hamas commanders and top Israeli leaders, including Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. We're talking about charges of willful killing, intentionally targeting civilians, extermination, and using starvation as a method of warfare. These are major, core international crimes. And by issuing these warrants simultaneously, the ICC set off an absolute global firestorm.
Section 2. The crossfire. Criticism from all sides.
And this brilliantly illustrates the impossible position the ICC is in right now, catching fierce criticism from literally every angle. On one side, Palestinian and left-wing critics argue Khan dragged his feet for 6 months while thousands of civilians died. They say he initially ignored escalating violence in the West Bank and didn't give victims enough time to share their stories. Now, on the exact opposite side, Israeli and right-wing critics argue the ICC is drawing a despicable false equivalence between a democratic state and a terror organization, effectively trying to deny Israel its fundamental right to self-defense.
So what do you do when you're being attacked by basically everyone? Well, Khan leans on this quote from Richard Goldstone. When you're criticized by everyone, you know you're doing the right job. Khan's defense is that the simultaneous warrants weren't some manufactured political stunt to look perfectly balanced. It wasn't a popularity contest. It was simply a function of the evidence against both sides maturing at the exact same time.
Section 3. The G word. The question of genocide.
Now, amidst all this debate, you might be wondering about one glaring omission. A lot of experts and activists constantly ask, why wasn't the specific charge of genocide included in the warrants against Israeli leaders? To understand this, we really have to look at legal thresholds. While many observers use the word genocide to describe the situation in Gaza, the ICC operates on incredibly strict legal definitions. Genocide has a distinct, exceptionally high evidentiary threshold regarding specific intent. However, the charges they did file, extermination and starvation, are incredibly heavy. These are severe core crimes within the ICC's jurisdiction. They aren't light charges by any means. They are massive crimes against humanity that met the strict evidentiary threshold right now.
Khan explains his strategy here as moving at the speed of relevance. He argues that waiting years to perfectly build a genocide case doesn't do much to help terrified people on the ground today. He wants to file rock-solid charges based on the evidence available now to show victims their suffering is noted and they are not invisible. But importantly, he also clearly states that investigations are completely ongoing, and future charges, including genocide, are absolutely not ruled out if the evidence reaches that legal threshold.
Section 4. Geopolitical hypocrisy. Global threats and pressures.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer diplomatic whiplash. It reveals the shifting, often totally hypocritical stances of global superpowers when the crosshairs of justice turn toward their own allies. Think back to 2023, when the ICC issued an arrest warrant for Russia's Vladimir Putin. Western powers celebrated. U.S. lawmakers praised it as an evidence-based action that would stand the test of history. But fast forward just 1 year. When reports surfaced that the ICC was investigating Israel, an allied nation, the narrative flipped entirely. A senior UK official reportedly threatened to pull funding from the court, and by May 2024, U.S. senators sent a letter literally threatening the ICC, writing, "Target Israel and we will target you." It reveals a really stark geopolitical contradiction, right? Superpowers love international law when it targets their enemies, but heavily attack it when it targets their friends.
And you have to understand, these aren't just empty political talking points. There is an immense personal and professional cost here. Because Khan went after Putin, he's actually been convicted in absentia and sentenced to 15 years in a Russian prison. Because he went after Netanyahu, he and his family have been subjected to severe sanctions by the United States. On top of that, the ICC is routinely targeted by the deadliest global intelligence agencies. It's a pretty stark reminder of the incredible risks ICC officials take to pursue these cases without fear or favor.
Section 5. The Africa Bias Allegation. Expanding the global scope.
Now, to be totally fair to the critics, the ICC hasn't exactly had a spotless reputation for universal fairness. Let's look at a major historical criticism of the court. 80%. Before these recent, highly publicized warrants against Russian and Israeli leaders, over 80% of the individuals indicted by the ICC were African leaders. This massive statistical imbalance led to intense and, frankly, justified accusations of a severe regional and anti-Africa bias. It really made the court look like a tool for Western powers to police the global South while giving themselves a total pass.
But to counter that legacy, Khan points to the court's current, expanding global docket. The ICC is actively pursuing war crimes in Palestine and Israel. They have active warrants for Russian leadership over the deportation of children in Ukraine. They are investigating horrific militia war crimes and crimes against humanity in Sudan's Darfur region. And they've requested warrants against Taliban leadership in Afghanistan for gender-based crimes. Khan's assertion here is that human life has to be valued equally everywhere, and the ICC is finally applying the law globally, prioritizing active atrocities based on their available resources.
Section 6. The Power of the Law. Let's wrap things up with the oak tree conclusion. So as we move towards the end of this explainer, you're probably asking the ultimate question. What is the point of all this if the ICC doesn't even have its own police force or army to actually go arrest these leaders? Well, the crucial point is this. The ICC relies entirely on member states to execute these warrants. Yes, without an army, it can be incredibly difficult to physically get these leaders into a courtroom in The Hague. But the power of the law goes way beyond physical arrests. By officially designating these actions as core crimes, backed by evidence and independent judges, the ICC strips away the shield of impunity. It speaks a powerful truth that validates the victim's suffering and actively tests the international community's resolve to uphold the very treaties they signed. Khan actually grounds this whole abstract idea of international law with a really powerful metaphor about the Guernica oak tree. In 1937, the town of Guernica was bombed and completely razed to the ground, but one single mighty oak tree survived in the rubble. Khan argues that international law cannot just be an impressive oak tree, pages of text and lofty legal theory, while everything beneath it, human lives and whole cities, is razed to the ground. The law has to provide actual shelter and protection to terrified civilians.
Which leaves us with this final, incredibly provocative question to think about. The ICC's warrants have officially drawn a line in the sand. Will global leaders actually support a true rules-based system where the law applies equally to everyone, including their closest allies? Or is it all just bluff and bluster, and they only want international laws when they target their foes? It's a question that is absolutely going to define the future of global justice. Think about that as you process today's explainer. Keep learning, stay focused, and I'll catch you in the next one.